So, my name's Jonny Bealby. As I say, I'm going to take you through a 30-year period of my life. Take you back to 1985. I was in a rock band when most people were enjoying house music. Needless to say, we didn't really do that well. We did get signed by an indie label and we recorded one album and 4 singles. One of them went to number 63 in the indie charts. I don't know if that can call us a one-hit wonder or not, but woo, there you go. But what it was, of course, was a brilliant way to spend your early 20s, gigging all over London and all over the country. But during that same time, I had met and fallen in love with this girl here, Melanie. She was a soulmate, and the whole time that I was playing in the band, we were living together and enjoying each other. In 1989, she said to me, "Jonny, I've had enough waiting for you to become famous. I want to go off travelling. You've travelled, I haven't, I want to go and do it." So, as the band was kind of coming to its natural conclusion anyway, and she was far more important to me than the band, we went off travelling. We went to Thailand, first of all, and then via Delhi up to Kashmir. Now, I don't know if any of you have been to Kashmir, but it is an absolutely beautiful place, an earthly paradise, as it's known. And we spent 2 idyllic weeks living on a houseboat, floating around on these shikaras here, and walking in the hills. But then, everything changed. I woke up one morning to find Melanie unconscious, and when I tried to revive her, she died in my arms. It's hard to explain what that is like in a single word, but if I had to choose one word, I would say total. You think you're going along a certain path, you think life is taking you one way, you think you found your life partner, then suddenly, poof, you hit a brick wall. And not only are you consumed by this extraordinary maelstrom of grief, which is a place that is very different to inhabit to the world that we all live in most of the time, it also really stops you and you just don't really know where to go forward. I was 26 years old, all my friends were starting to get their acts together, they were getting engaged, married, having babies, mortgages, career paths, etc. All this seemed to be blocked to me. But then I kind of came across a realization that whilst their lives were all going down the more kind of formulaic route, that was also corralling them into one destination. And there was one thing that I had which they didn't have, and that was a freedom to do whatever I wanted. So, what did I do? I bought a motorbike and I drove around Africa. I put this photograph of many in because it symbolizes to me the freedom that I felt on that motorbike, driving across the Sahara Desert, leaving what felt to me like a shattered world behind me, and driving towards a bright new future. People often confuse, I think, running away from a problem from actually running towards a new solution, and that's very much how I felt. Although when I left London, I didn't expect to do this. This is what I ended up doing. I turned south at Clapham Junction and I didn't turn north until Cape Town, which is quite a journey. Right the way down the west coast and all the way back up the east coast. 20,000 miles, 20 countries in 10 months. It was, of course, an incredibly tough journey in many ways, many obstacles to overcome, bandits, wild animals, civil wars, just holding a motorcycle up on African non-existent roads. But it was also incredibly beautiful and incredibly moving, and that's what these journeys are like. In one day, you can go from the depths of despair to the heights of euphoria. And I remember this particular moment, I put this slide in because I sat on a sand dune having driven my bike across the desert for a day, and I dropped it about 5 or 6 times, but I sat on top of this dune and I looked at that sky and thought, wow, the world really is an incredible place, and I am so lucky to be a part of it. And I pinpoint that moment as the point in which kind of my life turned around and I left grief behind and moved on into another world. When I got back to England, somebody said, you should write a book about it. They obviously didn't know that I failed English O-level 5 times, never got higher than grade E. But if there's one thing I'd learned on my journey, it was that if you have a go, you just might succeed. So I sat down for a year and I wrote a book, and amazingly, it got an agent, and then Random House chose to publish it, and it did rather well. But the problem that this then threw up for a 29, 30-year-old person was, am I now a writer? You know, I failed English O-level 5 times. It's ridiculous that I should ever contemplate being a writer. But I thought there's one way to find out. You go and do another journey, another book. So I picked a story based on my favourite book, Rudyard Kipling's short story, The Man Who Would Be King, and followed in the footsteps of Peachy Carnahan and Daniel Dravert, dressed like what you would now say probably a Taliban, into Pakistan, over the Khyber Pass, into Afghanistan, and walked through the Hindu Kush, which resulted in my second book, For a Pagan Song. The third story of my travel writing days is somewhat more bizarre. I was due to go with a girlfriend from Kashgar to the Caspian Sea on horseback along the Silk Road. With incredible bad timing, she dumped me a month before we were due to go. I already had a book deal, I had a TV deal. This was worse than just getting dumped. So my agent, being a clever chap that he is, said, why don't you just advertise for another girl and we'll film that and that'll be fun. So I did that. It wasn't fun. It was a complete disaster. But it did end up in quite a funny film and book. But what I'd learned from these experiences was that actually what I really enjoyed, writing was great and I'd written my story and it really was a story that I had. But what I loved doing more than anything was taking other people and showing them this world that I'd been lucky enough to experience. It's incredible places that I was seeing, meeting amazing people, and I knew that if I could somehow get that into a business where I could show other people this world, it would be successful. So I founded Wild Frontiers, named after the Northwest Frontier, and started taking people to these parts of the world. In 2002, I took 19 people to 2 destinations. This year we'll take 1,600 people to about 55 destinations. My dreams, which we were asked to give you, are in 3. By the time I'm 2018, I want that number to be 3,000 people enjoying these trips with us. We set up a foundation in 2010, building schools in northern Pakistan and computer labs in Ethiopia and various things. I want that to be a whole lot bigger so that we give a lasting legacy to the places through which we're lucky enough to travel. And I'm getting married to the beautiful Anna in about 2 weeks' time. And obviously I want that party to be the best party ever, and I want us to live happily ever after. So those are my dreams. So the question I put here for you guys is, if for whatever reason the path of your current life suddenly ended, what would you do to get back on track? Thank you very much.